Okay. Then everyone, thank you so much for joining us. This is Yoga plus Recovery Chats, an ongoing series we've been doing for a while now. I'm Kristen. I'm here with Chelsea. We'll do some quick intros before we start the conversation today, which Chelsea, I took my video. Oh, it's our theme today is unmasking toxic wellness and ditching diet culture, which has been spinning around in my mind for a while because it's such a big topic, but one that we will try to condense into 30 minutes. But everyone, I am Kristen. I'm the executive director of ANID. We are a nonprofit organization that offers free support services for anyone recovering from eating disorders at any point. So if you're not already familiar with us, please check us out, anid.org. And yeah, I'm really excited to talk about this theme today, but I'll let Chelsea introduce herself and maybe talk a little bit about what the format for today looks like as well.
Thanks, Kristen. I'm really excited to be back with you and back with all of you who are here with us virtually, here live, and maybe even watching the recording somewhere in the distant future or near future. Um, I'm Chelsea, and I'm the founder and director of Eat, Breathe, Thrive, and we're so proud and honored to be one of ANAD's partners and to have been collaborating on this series now for like 2 years, I think, which is just so great. And we're also really excited to be kicking off Eating Disorder Awareness Week, which is today. It starts today with this event. I'm thinking just 2 years ago, Kristen, that was how this all started. Is Eating Disorder Awareness Week was coming up, and we thought, what could we do as two nonprofits in this space? And one thing that we share in common with ANAD, and I think probably with all of you here, if you're here with us today, is that we value peer support in eating disorder recovery. We know how important relationship and community and connection is, and knowing other people who have dealt with this illness. And so we recognize the value of coming together and having a conversation together. And then the other thing that is going to be part of this event, in addition to that conversation, and we want to invite you all to join us in that conversation today. But we'll also offer a little bit of opportunity for yoga and some embodied practice. I know for me, I can get really stuck up here, and sometimes, I'll have an insight and I get it mentally, and then it just sort of floats out. And I've always found yoga such an amazing opportunity to really practice embodying and integrating all of those thoughts I'm having, and also just sort of letting the thoughts go and allowing, those learnings and those insights to really gel in my lived experience, my body, and my somatic experience. I hope that that's something we can offer you today. Or maybe it's just, an opportunity to breathe and let the day go, or start the day right, depending on where you are in the world right now. So we'll get a little opportunity for that. And our topic, as Kristen said, is ditching diet culture and unmasking wellness. And we were just chatting before, and I was saying, what do you want to start with? And Kristen's like, well, we could talk for hours on this subject. And yeah, we really could. Kristen, what comes up for you with those
Yeah.
terms?
So as we get going, we're going to jump into the chat part of yoga recovery chats, and we want to invite all of you to participate a little bit as well. So we have a check-in question here, which is one we were going back and forth about as well, because there's so many angles here. But for everyone who is interested in doing so, please look to your chat, share your name, your location, and pronouns if you'd like to share those. And then our question is really, what does wellness look like to you? Because again, like Chelsea and I were talking about, there's so many answers to that question. And I mean, for me, I feel like wellness has looked like different things at different points in my life. Like there were times when I was using the concept of wellness in a really toxic way for myself. But now I feel like I'm at a point where it's a much more holistic picture, and one that I feel really good about and encompasses more than it used to. Because there's ways you can think about wellness for your body, for your mental health, for your social health. And for me now, they really are all interconnected. Like I don't feel as good if I'm focusing on one over the other, or if I'm forgetting to take care of a piece of myself in favor of everything else. So now for me, I really do feel like wellness is just making sure that all of my buckets are, if not filled, at least getting attention and being aware of which one needs more. Uh, yeah. Chelsea, what about you? What is your wellness right now?
Oh yeah. I mean that word alone, it just brings up so much for me. I can't even answer the question without acknowledging how many negative associations I have to that term, maybe because of how it's often co-opted to disguise what are really disordered eating patterns as like wellness promoting things. So I so often see diets that are called, wellness, or I go to you see things that are kind of wellness culture, even yoga. And it's really just a way of like pushing these types of bodies are good bodies, these types of ways of eating are good eating. So it brings up a lot for me, but I think, in reclaiming that term for myself, I think having an eating disorder was actually a wonderful gift because it forced me to really think through all of those messages I've been given over my life about, what healthy eating is or what it means to be well, and think about whether they were really true. And in that process of recovery, I think for me, similarly to you, Kristen, it was starting to realize that wellness wasn't just kind of one bucket of my life. It wasn't just, eating well. It was the whole kind of picture. So it was how my mind was working mentally and cognitively. It was how my emotional life was, how my relationships are, um, how my body feels. Am I fatigued? Is my digestion good? And so wellness or being well to me looks like making sure that each of those areas of my life are really well nourished. That I've got social relationships that are imbuing my life with meaning, that I'm moving my body in ways that, relieve pain, and that, open up flexibility and even give me joy, that I'm eating in ways that allow me to focus and allow me to concentrate and do all the things I love to do with my body during the day. So it took on a whole different dimension.
Yeah. And I love that you mentioned joy in that as well, because that was a big transition for me, like doing all of the things that, the toxic wellness messaging brings. It's a lot of not being that kind to yourself in a lot of contexts. It's deprivation, it's pushing through, never miss a Monday, like all of those really intense messages. And I bought into them for a long time. Like I was really, really hard on myself and my body. And now a big reframing that was important for me was valuing rest, like finding the productivity, the importance in rest for myself and all my different buckets of wellness, and making sure that the things that I was doing did bring me joy, like thinking about the why behind things. Why am I moving this way? Why am I choosing this? And that kind of recoding for myself, it took a long time. And it's something that I have found really, really incredibly valuable personally for all of those different buckets of my life.
Yeah, I think it's so much about kind of it's amazing how many messages we get that are branded as wellness that are actually the opposite, that you've got to
Mhm.
do everything and be everything to everyone. Just looking at the chat, I wanted to offer a few of these out because they're really good gems. Wellness to me means being committed to caring for oneself deeply and with patience. So beautiful.
Patience.
Yeah. Wellness means and looks like confidence and happiness without regard to physical appearance, means having a strong foundation of self-love and self-compassion. Well, that's so
Mhm.
great. Taking time to care for yourself and putting yourself first when possible. Life happens. Yeah, isn't that the truth?
It always does. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Another question. I mean, I wanted to bring up because one of our, our theme, we're both acknowledging wellness, but also kind of acknowledging that there's a culture that runs counter to wellness. It's often branded as wellness. I wonder, Krista, the question that's coming for me is how do you stay well when you're kind of being bombarded with messages, sometimes unintentionally, that seem to kind of, and how do you recognize them as well? Like thinking social
Yeah.
media, all of that stuff. How do you stay well in a culture that seems like it's almost working against you?
It's hard. It is a hard thing. And a couple things for myself that I do. I super limit my social media. Like I'm still on there because I have to be sometimes, but I don't keep it on my phone. I don't keep it easy to access anymore. And I know that's not accessible to everyone, but for myself, it's been really, really powerful in a lot of ways. Like I don't sit there looking at my phone when I am with my family, for example. A lot of those little things that are kind of maybe secondary even to the goal, right? Because mine was to just help set myself up to stop comparing, right? Because I think that's a big piece of it is when we are comparing ourselves to who we're seeing out there. And we're people. It happens. And even now, like I do it sometimes. I catch myself. And that was a place I was doing it a lot. So I decided, like, okay, I'm just gonna try to take a step back from that. And I liked what happened to me. So I left that part of it away. And then it it's exhausting, but being critical of what you're looking at is an important piece. And again, it's so hard. Anna did an event with a social media wellness organization a while back who suggested if you have an account that you post on, create a separate account to like scroll on and be really intentional about who you're following and the messaging that they put out there. Because a lot of the advice, like, oh, report things and like unfollow, it still requires you to engage with all of this content, which is hard. But if you're starting from scratch and saying like, hey, I want to be really clear about who I'm following and the kind of messaging I want to look at, that it can be a little bit easier than kind of redoing your whole feed. So that that always stuck with me. I thought that was really incredible advice. But that's one piece of it for me, as well as being as in the moment as I can. Again, person all over the place thinking about what I got to do next week, but wherever I'm able, just being able to focus on now is a really helpful one for me.
Muted. I was going to say, I'm so glad you mentioned social media because I think, I've made that choice as well to set some boundaries, like really not even every once in a while when I'm traveling, I'll post, but I generally don't even post because I find it brings out such an unwell part of myself that's, a bit performative and looking for validation. So I'm so glad you brought that up. I feel like I don't live in that right now, but there's like it's so hard to even just exist in the world without having social media accounts. Um, I guess one thing that comes up to me, I'm thinking specifically about eating disorder recovery and what it means to stay well while you're in recovery from an eating disorder, especially when you're kind of inundated with messages all the time that seem to be working in the opposite. And I'm seeing this come up in the chat. I think one thing that's not helped at all me stay well is all of the messages around what my body should look like. As in terms of weight stigma or shape, kind of shape idea, like how my body's supposed to look in terms of aging, all of that stuff. And I've kind of over the course of my life had to just almost I think of them almost as a form of activism for myself, but set some real boundaries around what keeps me well. And I've been in recovery for a very long time. So I want to acknowledge this isn't always appropriate at different stages of recovery, but choosing not to get on a scale in a on it is one of those ways that I keep myself well because I know that number is imbued with meaning. And of course, in the early stages of recovery, when I was in treatment, there was no other choice but to be getting on a scale because it was part of it. But um, it's another thing kind of along those lines is I don't engage in body talk at all. So if I have a friend who asks me, oh look, I've lost weight, how do I look? I don't say, well, I'm not going to talk to you about that. I say, oh, you look radiant. I have not seen you looking so joyful in a long time. I just choose not to engage in all of those kind of body messages that have kept me unwell. And I also choose kind of as a form of activism not to contribute to that culture of diet culture masked as wellness. And I in some ways that is a kind of, that act keeps me well too, because I say I'm not going to do this to my friends, I'm not going to do this to my family, I'm not going to kind of contribute to that, and in doing so I end up kind of serving myself in the process, because I'm not kind of, doing it to myself either.
Totally agreed. And I feel like this is one of those personal as political moments, right? Like the choices we make for ourselves, they ripple out, they can affect other people. Like, and for everyone listening, if any of you want to share things that you do to take care of your own wellness in different ways, if you want to either put them in the chat or even throw up a hand, feel free to unmute and share those. And I think I may have mentioned this before in another chat, but I have a daughter, and now I find it easier to call that out on her behalf than my own, to say, hey, you know what? I don't want you talking about your crash diet in front of my daughter. That, putting value on body size isn't something I want to teach her. And it can be an awkward thing because she's little, she's a toddler. She just points out fact. She's like, you're tall, you have a big belly. And navigating those moments can be a lot, especially when people have like feelings about their bodies being pointed out. So doing some of that talk about like, hey, we don't talk about people's bodies with her as like a policy in my home. And then with my family about being really neutral about it. It's been a lot, but doing it in the framework of I want to teach my daughter and make sure she doesn't internalize this has been easier for me than doing it for myself.
Yeah, it's so tough. I was this past week, and this is so fresh on my mind. I was at a I went to Qatar, and I got to swim in a big competition. And as part of it, we had to wear these special competing swimsuits, which are like, they're like onesies, and they're super tight and ridiculously uncomfortable. I don't know why anybody subjects themselves to it. And I don't know why I did it, but I did. And somebody I remember like said to me something about my body. They were like, oh, you look so muscular or something in that. And I remember having that kind of like initial, you know, and it's so tough because you can think that something is entirely innocuous. You can think that something is even a compliment. People say it all the time. Oh, you look like you've blank. You look, all that dress looks amazing. It's so flattering. But the implication there is that there's something that needs to be flattered. So I think it's so tricky to navigate that um dialectic almost between wanting a child is just sort of seeing what they're seeing in the world, and and those observations themselves are kind of neutral maybe in a child's eyes, but because we've overlaid all of this kind of societal ideas around what a good body is and what we're supposed to look like and what we value, that can be, I feel the same thing with aging. I feel like when people tell me, oh, you look so youthful, it almost like implants these seeds of, and I haven't heard that in a long time actually, but it's dropped these seeds of 5 or 10 years, like, oh, do I still look that way? So there's all these things that can sometimes seem like compliments that actually are just sort of disguised as diet culture and weight stigma.
Yeah. And Katie in the chat mentioned having a really hard time to focus when culture, society is telling you all the things you should be doing. And that, I once had a therapist tell me, like, stop shoulding all over yourself. And that's another thing that really stuck with me. Because it's something that I think all of us navigate. Like, where should I be right now? What should I look like? Should I go get wrinkle cream? Like whatever is on our minds. And I think a lot of that is rooted in societal pressure to change,
Mm,
right?
yeah.
So I can't say I'm perfect at this, but a tool that I use is when I'm feeling those messages, if I'm seeing some of the messaging saying like, hey, change up what you're eating because whatever reason, I try to go a layer down and be like, why are they saying that? Like, do they want me to change myself? And if so, why? And I think that
Mm.
why is really important
Well, it's
because
often they want to sell a product, isn't it?
yes, but along with the product, they're selling the insecurity too, right? Like
Hmm.
you need to buy this
Hmm.
product to fix this problem. that you should feel bad about because you are a person with a body, and people with
Yeah.
bodies have body problems. It's just part of being human.
Yeah.
And I think for myself, digging down to that and realizing like, hey, you know what, I don't need to spend this money on this thing because this problem isn't actually real. Like it takes a lot of work and a lot of practice, but trying to notice that for myself has been helpful.
Yeah. Yeah, I feel like in some ways it's so cliche, we can kind of gloss over what it really means, but that idea that we live in a society that profits on insecurities, it's true at such a fundamental level. Like it's what drives buying it. So you might think, well, oh, these companies, why would they want to implant insecurities? And I don't think it's even conscious. I think often,
I think some of
advertisements,
it's conscious.
some of it is, but like a car company, for instance, isn't like, I'm going to go and make women feel really insecure about their body. Normally, what they're trying to do is like associate themselves with something that's deeply desired or longed for to sell their products. But in doing that, they also kind of implant a security if you don't, if in drive in that sort of, oh, all people want to look like this, or all people want to have lots of money, or all people want to be have a lot of sex appeal, or whatever it is. They actually are kind of furthering that insecurity. um I want to answer, I saw a question come up in chat that could take us off topic, but I think I can answer it and kind of keep us on this topic in a different way. Somebody asked, Chelsea, do you still consider yourself in treatment? I think when I was speaking a bit earlier, I wouldn't. If we're using the terms in treatment, I wouldn't. No, I'm 19 years into recovery at this point, and I've definitely, like, I would think of in treatment as going and seeing a therapist regularly, a dietitian regularly, having my treatment team. That you know it's taken years, and treatment has gone through several iterations in sustained recovery. So I wouldn't consider myself in treatment. But I think I would, and I'm not actively in therapy at this time, although I have gone in and out of it at various times over the past 19 years, not necessarily for an eating disorder, just for life, for dealing with really difficult life transitions, all of that. And I guess that is one way I stay well, is um, I think one of again, the gift of having had an eating disorder is that it's not stigmatized for me. It's like, I spent years in treatment and in therapy. I can't be embarrassed about it because it was such a massive component of my life. And so now I think, I'm not ashamed when I need help, when I'm like, wow, I'm clearly really struggling, or, oh my gosh, I had this happen last year, a massive life decision that I needed to work through. And I went and saw my old therapist for like 3 months, and I called her like the ninja because she was just in and out. And then I was like, wow. And she's like, I think we're good. I think we've come, you call me if you need me again. But I think that's an important component of staying well. We focus so much on body and eating and all that sort of stuff, but being honest enough with yourself to know when you need help, and not being afraid to go and get support, whether that be from a clinician or your peer support system, or showing back up to support groups, or whatever that is. Just knowing that it's so much bigger than your physical wellness, and we're all humans with minds, and life can be really difficult sometimes. And staying well is recognizing when you're really struggling, and not being afraid to take, or being afraid and still taking a brave step of asking for help.
Yeah. I still see my therapist. I feel like it's just helpful to maintain that basic sense of wellness, even, less frequently and with different focuses, but I love it. I think it helps me generally. And I think
Yeah.
something else Sarah mentioned, she navigates diabetes. Someone else mentioned focusing on the good within. I think a big piece of this is honoring that what you need to be well looks different person to person, and even looks different for yourself moment to moment. Like what I needed 10 years ago is not what I need now. Like what I needed when I'm navigating major life transitions is not what I need when everything is smooth sailing. And knowing like if you are a person navigating diabetes, your wellness is going to look different than someone who doesn't have that. And it's okay. Because I think
Mm,
everyone, again, back to comparison, we look to each other to say, Am I doing it right? Like, am I doing it
Yeah.
like this person over there?" And it's a hard thing to say, you know what, I need something different, and that's okay. But I think that gets easier with practice. And
Yeah.
it's, I think, a really important thing to practice.
It's so important, and I think it's also I don't know where everybody who's here is in their kind of recovery process and stage of recovery, but I just it's what's coming up for me as I'm listening is I think it's so relevant for eating disorder recovery, and particularly in our relationship with food. Like I remember, and I still kind of, but way more in the early kind of stages of my recovery, it was so hard to come to terms with the fact that that my body might need more than other people. That was so tough, especially if those other people, like specifically like in my relationship, if my body needed more than my partner's, I was like, this can't be right. He's eating less than me, whatever. And really recognizing that your body is so unique and it has completely different needs. It may need, more of different nutrients. It may need more insulin. It may need more food. It may need more rest. We all have different, you think about it with sleep. Some of us need 8 hours of sleep. Some of us can get by comfortably on 6.5, probably 7, really, Um, some of us need different types of movements. We get injured and, going out and doing, crazy types of exercise is just not in the cards. And so recognizing that your body and your mind is so unique, and really, what other people are doing has nothing to do with what keeps you well. Of course, science can give us some pointers on what's going to keep a human body well, but it's really unique to your particular circumstances.
I navigated a lot of anger early on, like in choosing to even start a recovery journey, because I thought I was doing things I should be doing. I thought a lot of my behaviors were being well. And it pissed me off, right? The fact that like the things that I were doing that for a long time I thought were positive were actually hurting me. And accepting that and choosing to change was hard.
Yeah, yeah, especially when there's such kind of just intractable ideas out there about what is good and what is bad and what is healthy and what is not. Again, I kind of come back to that idea that in some ways, being in eating disorder recovery is a form of activism. The personal is political. And I guess I know we want to move into a movement practice, but I want to acknowledge that staying well in a society that has so many toxic elements is not easy. Like it can be incredibly difficult. I've done some work with people around body image, and they say, yeah, I know that being thin or being strong or being this or that doesn't make me lovable, but I'm still on those dating apps and I feel like people are swiping looking for a certain thing. So there's real forces out there that are kind of working against us, and yet we have such an opportunity um to create a different culture and create different communities together. And it starts with us really taking care of ourselves and kind of, advocating and acting and kind of living a different form of wellness.
Yeah. And as we get ready to transition into the yoga piece, I just want to honor Katie's message in the chat. Been thinking in the last few days, I just need to listen to my body and my intuition rather than turning to Google about questions of health and wellness. I love that so much. Thank you for sharing that intuition. And I mean, I can't tell you what to do, but I feel like it's a good one.
Oh, amen. I love this message that's just come through, that I realized some of the things that I learned in yoga via yoga in early recovery affected how I thought about what I should and shouldn't eat in a negative and quite toxic way. Oh my gosh, the yoga, it drives me nuts because clearly I'm an advocate for yoga. I've got an organization arguing that yoga can be a good, powerful component in recovery, but the yoga space is like the worst offender. Not the worst, car companies and, you know, um, cigarette commercials and all that might be worse, but gosh, it's just like you walk into a yoga studio and you're immediately bombarded with cleanses and detoxes. And so we really have to keep our eyes open. And I think this is, again, that personal as political, not be afraid to speak up, not be afraid to share our lived experience. And also do our best to create spaces that are safe and supportive to people who are not just people with eating disorders, by the way, literally all people. All people. Nobody needs that kind of messaging.
It's true. Okay.
Okay.
So
Well, on
we're
that
at
note,
the halfway point. Yeah.
yeah. Yeah, on that note, let's do some yoga. Let's do a different kind of yoga. And I'm gonna let you know I'm not gonna be doing a demonstration of yoga for you, partially because I want you to tune into what's happening in your own body. And if I might kind of show you if I need to stand up and show a certain pose, but I don't want you to feel like you need to look like me. So this is really your practice, and I'm going to take that idea that Kristen so beautifully spoke to and really gave me to theme this practice of really, there's no one size fits all approach here, and really taking that opportunity to taking this opportunity, this yoga practice, as a way of practicing doing what is working for you, nourishing your body in a way that's working for your body. Because yoga really does give us an opportunity to practice that for 30 minutes on or off a mat, right? And then maybe it's a little easier when we're out in the world or at a meal doing the same thing. Okay, so on that note, I'm going to invite you to come into a seat. If you're not, I mean, hopefully you're sitting. You might not be. You might be standing, you might be lying down. And if you want to lie down, that's totally okay. But I'm going to invite you to find a seat of some sort. And I'm seated in a chair, which enables me to see and speak with all of you. But if you want to back off from the computer, as long as you can hear me, you could sit in a chair, you could sit on the ground, you could sit on a couch. And you might not know this, but actually the word asana, which is usually used to talk about poses in yoga, actually means seat. That is the word asana. It means seat. So when we find our seat, we are really coming into the yoga practice. We're finding really our seat in our body and in our consciousness and our mind. So finding your seat, you can allow your eyes to close if you feel comfortable, or if you want to keep them open, that's more comfortable. That's totally okay. I want you to bring your attention, your mental awareness to your seat. And your seat doesn't have to literally mean your sits bones, but really where your body is making contact with what's solid beneath you. And that might be your sits bones pressing into the floor or the chair beneath you. If you have feet on the ground, you might notice where your soles of your feet or the sides of your feet make contact with the earth. I feel like we so often forget what a wonder gravity is. And that without any effort at all, you are glued to something solid. And really take a moment to breathe into that and notice that feeling of stability. And from there, let's take a deep breath. Go ahead and let all the air out. A deep breath in through your nose and exhale. That two more times. Breathe in, exhale, and breathe in And exhale. Great. Okay. Can I have you bring yourself to mountain pose? And mountain pose, the kind of classic mountain pose, you stand up and you just have your feet beneath your hips and you're just standing up. Just standing up with your hands at your side. I'm going to stay seated, partially so you can see me, and partially because you can really do mountain pose in any way. So knowing, we're working with meeting the needs in our bodies. If it makes sense for you to stand up, stand up. Another option, if you're not seated, is to lie down on your back and do mountain pose in your back. If you're seated like I am, you're going to take your hands and just allow them to come beside you. If you're standing up, same thing. If you're lying down, bring your arms next to the side. I want you to take your shoulders, kind of hunch them forward, maybe around your back. Right. And now do the opposite. Allow the shoulders to roll back behind you and see if you can stack every vertebrae up on top of one another. Good. Bring your awareness to the crown of your head and see if you can lift it just a little higher toward what's above. Great. And then maybe kind of lean forward and lean back a little bit. You can do a sitting or standing. If you're lying down, you don't need to move too much here. And then see if you can bring your spine to a line just over the tailbone, really finding a lift. Whether you're standing, lying down, or seated, lift your toes up toward your face. Great, spread them, and then if you're sitting or standing, you can press them down into the ground. If you're lying down, just leave them pressed open and kind of flex. And really, we're just trying to get as much length through the spine, crown of the head as possible. You should feel like you've just grown like 3 inches taller. Great. Take a deep breath in and exhale. Okay, with this inhale, take your hands out wide and up above your hand. You can do this sitting, lying, or standing. Good. Hopefully you won't hit a lamp like I do. Good. Inhale, bring your fingers all the way together at the top. Good. And then exhale, bring your hands through heart center. Good. Bring palms together. Good. Let's do that again. Inhale, lift your arms up. Good. Swing them open and out wide. And gaze up toward your fingers. Exhale, hands to heart. And one more time. Inhale, up and out. Good. Really open your shoulders, open your heart and chest. And then exhale, hands to heart. Great. Okay. Whether you're sitting, lying, or standing, we're going to do that again. But we're going to bring in some side bends. Okay. So inhale, swing your arms open and out. Reach your hands all the way up. Palms come together at the top. And then as you exhale, bring your right hand down toward your side. Good. Doesn't have to necessarily land on anything. If you've got a chair, that's nice. It doesn't have to. And as you exhale, we're going to side bend over to the right, opening up the chest and the side ribs. Good. Inhale, come all the way up. I said I wasn't going to practice with you, but here I am practicing with you. Oh, hello. Guess I need some yoga today. Always loving the yoga. Exhale, left hand comes down. Great. Side bend over to the left. Oh, it feels so great in the ribs. Good. Inhale, come back up. Both hands come together. And exhale, hands to heart. Okay, we're going to do that 2 more times. Inhale, reach up. Again, you can do this standing, lying, or sitting, whatever's working for you today. Good. Exhale, slowly bring the right hand down and reach your left hand overhead. See if you can use the whole breath for that movement. Good. Inhale, come back up. Palms come together at the top. Get as long as you can, especially if you're lying down. Really press the heels and hands up. Exhale, left hand down by the side. Right hand comes overhead. Good. Press through the heels if you're lying down. Good. Inhale, come all the way back up. Gonna get as long as you can, reach up, get a little bit taller. And exhale, hands to heart. Okay, last time like that. Inhale, reach up. Exhale, right hand down, left hand overhead. You can bring in that ujjayi breath if you're a yogi. Good. Inhale, right hand comes up. If you're not sure what ujjayi breath, it's like a Darth Vader breathing, breathing in the back of the throat. Exhale, left hand comes down, right hand overhead, big side stretch. Good. Inhale, both hands up. Press through the heels or the sits bone, reach the fingers up for the ceiling. And then exhale, hands to heart. Beautiful. All right. And release the hands down by your side. Standing, maybe shake them out. Good. Twist the wrists around in a few circles. Oh, hello. He wants to be in a yoga practice. So sweet. Here's the yoga voice.
He manages to crash every time.
I love it. All right, let's take some shoulder circles here. So you can do one and then the other. You can do both. You can lift both shoulders up to the ceiling. Oh gosh, that's so hard. It doesn't feel good at all. And exhale, bring them down behind your back. Good. Maybe take a few circles back, a few circles forward. Notice if anywhere is feeling really tight. And then maybe just shake both arms out. Wonderful. Great. Okay, we're going to do a couple twists. And again, I'm really emphasizing you've got options here. You can do it seated, or you can do it standing, or you can do it lying down. Lying down is actually a lovely way to do twists. I'm going to do it seated. If you'd like to do it lying down, you can, or you can do it standing up. Okay, so Kristen, what are you going to do? You're going to go lying down? Gonna go lying down. Okay, great. We'll use Kristen as our first demo. So if you're lying down, you're gonna pull your right knee into your chest. Good. Pull your right knee in, hug your right knee in, and then take that right knee to the left side. Left side for the twist. Great. Then extend the right arm out. Beautiful. If you're sitting in a chair like me, it's a really simple one. I'm gonna take my left hand here. I'm gonna place it on the outside of my right knee on the bottom of the chair. And then I'm going to grab onto the back of my chair and gaze backwards. And that is really lovely. And then if you're standing up, I can give you a standing up version. Okay, so we're standing up here. We're going to bring left hand forward and right hand back, and then gaze back at the right hand. Gaze back. And the right, funny that the one lying down, I think, feels the best. The one standing up is really active. And in the one seated, you're going to get a really nice opening in the thoracic part of the spine. So wherever you find yourself, we're going to take 3 breaths together. Okay. So set your eyes on one point and take a really deep breath in. Notice what you feel in your body as you breathe out. Great. Do that again. Inhale, fill your lungs, and notice how that affects the twist. And then as you exhale, see if you can let go a little bit more, maybe rolling the shoulders down the back or allowing the knee to come a little bit closer to the floor if you're lying down. Great. And then one more. Inhale, deep breath. And exhale. Okay, we're going to make your way out of that twist, everyone. So come all the way back to center. For lying down, you're going to bring the right foot down to the ground. If your arms were out, you're going to bring them down and just kind of shake them out a little bit. And then same thing on the other side. So if Kristen's going to go ahead and demonstrate here, hugging her left knee into the chest, is going to take the right knee down to the floor and extend the arm open, maybe turn the palm to face the ceiling. Great. If you're seated, it's going to be left. It's going to be right hand. Right hand is going to come up and it's going to come outside of the left knee, onto the chair. Kind of see me here. So hand to chair. I'm going to take the hand here. Great. And then Take the hand on the back of the chair and gaze back. And then if you're standing, again, we're just coming from that mountain pose, standing up. I'm going to take the left hand back, right hand forward, and really gaze back. And standing, because I know many of you will be, see if you can keep your hips facing the center, even while in the twist. It's a pretty active pose. You should feel a lot in the shoulder blades. Quite hard to maintain, actually. So, take 3 big breaths there. Inhale, exhale. Second breath, inhale, exhale, and one more. Inhale and exhale. Beautiful. All right, we're going to come out of the twist. So either hug that knee back to center if you're lying down, turn back to face the front if you're sitting or standing, and then bring both hands by the side. If you did the twist lying down, maybe shake your legs out a little bit. And if you did it sitting or standing, maybe shake the arms out. Wonderful. Right. Okay, we're going to stick with these heart opening poses here. So if you're lying down, I'm going to have you come to all fours. And if you're standing up, I'd like you to choose either a seated position like I have, or a position like Kristen's taking on all fours. We're going to do some cat-cow poses. So I know Kristen has done this before, so she's going to demonstrate cat-cow, gazing up toward the ceiling with an inhale. Maybe she hasn't done it before, and I'm making assumptions. Inhaling, looking up, and exhaling, rounding. Good. And if you're seated, as I am, this is slightly different. I'm going to take hands to my knees, and I'm going to inhale, roll the shoulders back, gaze up. Exhale, round. Okay, let's do that a couple more times. So inhale, gaze up. Exhale, round. Inhale, gaze up. Exhale, round. And one more. Inhale, gaze up. And exhale, round. Beautiful. Come back to a neutral position. Beautiful. And Krista, what I'm going to have you do, take your right hand, and anybody who's in the all four positions, follow this. We're going to inhale, bring the right hand up toward the ceiling, and you're going to thread the needle. So the right hand is going to come down under that left arm. Great. And you're going to roll onto your right ear. So just like Kristen's doing here, and you're going to just come to rest there. Right. So if you're in a chair like me and not on the mat or on the floor like Kristen, here it's going to be kind of similar to our twist. We're going to take our right hand up, gaze up, really lift. And then as you exhale, bring the right hand. And here I'm going to take the back of the right hand to the outside of my chair and come into that twist. And this is a tricky one. You might even need to grab, but we're opening kind of from the bottom. I'm twisting and gazing up. So I'm getting a different kind of twist here in the side ribs. Beautiful. And also maybe feeling it in the back of the right arm. Good. Take 2 more breaths. Inhale. Exhale. And one more. Inhale. And exhale. Okay, if you're on the floor, unthread the needle. You're going to bring the right hand back up to the ceiling. Great. And then come back to all fours. And then I'm going to just kind of turn myself out, slowly unwinding. Let's do a few cat-cow poses again, whether in the chair or on all fours, to just kind of neutralize. So inhale, gaze up. Exhale, round. Inhale, gaze up. And exhale, round. One more. Inhale, gaze up. and exhale. Round. Okay, same thing, other side. Inhale, bring the left arm up, open through the heart and shoulders. Good. Exhale, thread that needle. So left hand comes under. Good. And then for me, if I'm in the chair, I like to take my right hand behind me. And here I'm really focusing on opening this back part of my shoulder blade and also opening kind of the under part of the ribs. It's really different from kind of an upright twist like this, where we're twisting through the thoracic. That opening of a whole different part of the ribs and spine. Good. Take 3 breaths there. So inhale, exhale, inhale, exhale, and one more. Breathe in and breathe out. Great. And unwind. Maybe reach the left hand back up toward the ceiling. Open the shoulder. And bring it back to center. Okay, let's do 3 more cat-cow poses. So inhale, gaze up, open the heart and shoulders. Exhale, round. Inhale, gaze up. Exhale, round. Hug your navel to your spine. And then one more. Inhale, open through the heart and chest. Roll the shoulders back. And exhale, round. Good. Back to a neutral spine. Lovely. Okay, if you are in Kristen's version of the pose, you're going to come back to child's pose, bringing your seat to your heels or to a block or a bolster, and then walking your hands forward. And if you're in my seated pose, still in the chair, you are going to reach your hands up and either exhale, fold all the way over your knees, or if you've got a table or a couch, feels really good. Bringing the hands down to a table or couch, and then allowing the head to release and relax, and really stretching through the back. And taking some really deep breaths to notice how your body's feeling right now. It feels good to bring a little movement in. You can. It's easier if you're in the seated version. You're on the ground. You can maybe walk one hand over to the side and stretch through those side ribs. And then maybe over to the other side. Again, really focusing today on upper body, opening through the heart and chest, and making space for breath. But I don't want to forget your lower body. So let's do a couple poses just to finish off, to take care of our legs and our hips and our seat. So if you're in Kristen's version of the pose, come on back to all fours. You're following me here in the chair. You're going to just go ahead and bring yourself up to seated. And Kristen, I'm going to teach yours first, and then I'll give a direction for everyone else. Kristen, you're just going to step your right foot between your hands. So everybody, if your foot comes up really easily, like Kristen's, great. If not, you can grab your ankle, reach down and grab your ankle, and just sort of help it all the way up between the hands. Great. And then Kristen, go ahead and kind of walk. You might want to walk your knee up even further, because I want you to drop your hips into a low lunge. Sometimes it's easier to walk the knee back as well. So knee comes forward. Yeah, there we go. And then knee down in the back, left knee down. Great. Yeah. Just opening through the hips a little bit. Great. And that is option 1, is where Kristen is. If you want a deeper hip opening, then half pigeon is an option here. If you're like, did she say something about a pigeon? Why are there pigeons in yoga? Good question. I don't know. Why are we calling this a pigeon pose? But what Kristen's doing here, she's walking her right foot all the way toward her left hip. Doesn't have to touch the left hip, and then bring that right knee down and coming into your pigeon pose. It's a very intense hip pose. I'm not going to take it because my hips are not feeling that today. So what I'm going to do as an alternative, I'm going to cross my right foot over my left knee. And this is a different kind of a pigeon pose. So right foot over knee. And I'm going to take a deep breath in. And I already feel so much right there. But if I wanted to deepen it, I can kind of lean forward a little bit. And you're looking for some feeling on the outside in the right glute and the hip. Right. So find your version of that pose. And you can stay up like Kristen is if you'd like. You can walk your hands down and come on your forearms, your elbows. Just take a few moments to breathe into your body. And maybe notice what you're feeling. For me, the gateway to my feelings is almost always sensation. So here you might just notice if there are any sensations you can feel in your body in this moment. The gift of pigeon pose is a lot of times we feel a lot of sensation in our hips. So that can be a starting point. Noticing what you feel in your hip or your glute. You might also notice you feel anything in your tummy. There's pain in your body today. Might notice where there's movement, warmth, coolness. Notice how deeply you're breathing and what it feels like to breathe. And just take note, this is what I'm feeling now. Without having to worry about what anybody else is feeling or how your feelings compares to anyone else's. If I had ample time, I'd keep you here for another 5 minutes, but I don't want to leave your other left hip all by its lonesome. So let's slowly come out of this version of the pose, lifting yourself back up and transitioning. So you're in the all fours position, stepping left foot forward, coming into that low lunge, and then shimmying the foot over if you want to go into the half pigeon. And then if you're in my seated version, it's so simple. We just cross the left foot over the thigh, press slightly into the left knee, pressing it down toward the ground. You don't need to do much here. And then you can start to hip hinge and lean forward if you like. But there's not a whole lot of doing that needs to happen in this pose. Really about feeling. And same thing here. Use your sensations as a gateway to knowing and feeling what's happening in your body right now, and maybe what you're needing right now. Notice what you feel in your hip. Notice if your body feels tired or alert. Notice if you're aware of anything that you're needing in this moment or anything that might allow you to feel a bit more at ease, and maybe recommit to giving yourself that gift of comfort, of care, and of nourishment. A big breath in and slowly find yourself back to that seat that we began with. Just 1 minute over. Gosh, I wish I had a full hour with you all, but call that a little yoga sampling.
It goes so fast.
It does. Thanks, Kristen. This has been fantastic.
Yeah, thank you, Chelsea. I love doing these. I love the yoga portion and I love the conversation portion. Yeah.
Me
And
too.
all
Me too.
you,
Yeah, thank
yeah.
you to all of you who have been here.
Mhm.
An absolute delight. I know Melanie will be in touch after about the recording, and I know we saw a couple of stragglers jump in late, so it may be a time zone mix up, but the conversation's been recorded,
Okay.
and Melanie will be in touch with links and all of that good stuff, and we hope to see you at the next one. We've got these done we're doing these quarterly now and have a different theme every quarter. So
Okay, so
And
it
so
said 6 o'clock. It said 6 o'clock on the Zoom.
oh really? Oh
Yeah,
dear.
yeah.
Oh, must have been a time zone
So
mix up.
apologize. So anyway,
Oh my gosh, don't apologize. We're sorry to miss you, but you caught the final moments.
yeah,
I'm glad to
yeah.
see.
I'll listen to the recording. So
Oh,
thanks very
thanks
much.
so
Thank
much.
you.
Thank you. Yeah.
and for all of
Okay.
you, think about what you can do to take care of yourselves today. What kind of wellness do you really need? So with that thought, I just want to thank everyone again and you, Chelsea.
Oh, thank you, Kristen. Yeah. And we hope to see you all again sooner at the next one.
Mhm.
Thanks. Okay. Bye everybody.
Bye, everyone.